What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today it is another mock draft. This one, 2 rounds, week 14, updated draft order. Thanks for coming. Make sure to hit the like and the subscribe. It is the freest, easiest, and quickest thing you can do in supporting this channel, and I thank you ahead of time for doing all of that. But let's get to the picks. Not going to waste any more time. Let's go. And as always, we go 8 by 8, just makes it a little bit easier for you guys to digest, a little bit easier for me to put together. So we got Bryce Young, Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, CJ Stroud. I think that's the top 4 picks in this draft. I would even throw Myles Murphy there at number 5. I think that this is the top 5 of this draft, I would say. Unless Jacksonville finds their way into this top 5, I do think that this is the top 5 picks. Bryce Young, I think, goes number 1. The Bears will take the best defensive player on the board. I think the Seahawks just take the other one. And then CJ Stroud ends up there in Detroit. Maybe if this ends up being the Philadelphia Eagles, they would trade out of the spot for the team maybe like Carolina looking to leapfrog. Maybe they trade out with the Indianapolis Colts. But as of right now, I don't think that Detroit, as much as this offense is flying, as much as this offense is really seeming to be put together, you have to consider if maybe in the long term, is CJ Stroud an upgrade to Jared Goff? At the very least, it'll be an option that'll allow you to maybe free up some cap space. I've argued this ad nauseum in other videos, to free up other cap space, to fill out some of those spots on defense with some veteran players. Maybe even fill out some spots on the offensive line, on that interior at the one guard position. The right guard position could be up in the air. You never know what's going to happen with Taylor Decker. Do you move on from Decker? I wouldn't, but could they? You can use that money in a number of different ways and not just have it on Jared Goff. I'm not so sure you would lose a whole lot bringing CJ Stroud in terms of offensive production. So I would recommend it. Going back to Myles Murphy, I like Myles Murphy ending up in Philadelphia in this scenario just because it allows them to get rid of Brandon Graham. They're probably going to lose Fletcher Cox, who they brought back on a 1-year deal. And this is just further helping rebuild that defensive line. I did throw Quentin Johnson here in the top 10 to Carolina. And my rationale, I guess, was, do you draft Tyree Wilson here? I'm not doing trades. So do you draft Tyree Wilson? Do you reach for Will Levis? Do you take Brian Breezy or Keely Ringo? I'm not so sure about that. So why not take Quentin Johnston, who's a beast at the wide receiver position, and it'll be an amazing help for whoever ends up being your quarterback in Carolina come next year that you can get in the second round, which, by the way, we do address it. But this is a great opportunity to get a real stud wide receiver next to DJ Moore. And it takes, Terrace Marshall starting to come along a little bit. But, imagine Johnston, DJ Moore. You got a good group there. Brian Breezy to the Jags. Continue to improve that front 4. I think he fits in really well there based upon the personnel they're going to have anyway. Then the Cardinals, Keely Ringo. Take the top corner on the board. Don't overthink it. Houston didn't overthink it with Derek Stingley, and I know Sauce Gardner has been an absolute beast, but Derek Stingley has been no slouch either. It's not exactly a bust pick that they grabbed Derek Stingley. So I think that this is a sort of the same situation, just because he had a rough outing. Don't overthink it. People try to do this with Stingley, and it turns out Stingley's great. So take Keely Ringo. Coming along here, the Colts are sitting there, and so I'm going to make them take Will Levis. Will Levis is going to be top 25 on a lot of teams' boards, which means, quite frankly, for a quarterback-needy team, they're going to be willing to take him at this spot because the quarterback value is so high. So Will Levis to the Colts. You're stuck with Matt Ryan for one more year, but he's also not going to play forever anyway, so you at least have somebody there who you can maybe mold with the new coaching staff. Jordan Addison going to Atlanta. They need a receiver now more than ever that Calvin Ridley's gone, so I think throwing him in there opposite Drake London is going to be very advantageous for this team. Peter Skoronski to Green Bay. help improve that offensive line. Neiman is upcoming free agent. So you might be able to fill that right tackle spot here with Peter Skoronski. Or if David Bakhtiari leaves, you got another spot there for Skoronski to potentially fill. Christian Gonzalez to the Raiders. They got no corners. I don't know who plays corner for this team. And I don't know who's blowing the world away, but they could definitely use another one for sure. They definitely don't have a strength at the cornerback position. Then we got Houston again. Tyree Wilson, edge rusher. I think the traits are speaking for themselves here. Paris Johnson to Pittsburgh. I think it's an ideal pick. He can at least play one of the two tackle positions come next year. Joey Porter Jr. to Detroit. This is your opposite Jeff Okudah pick. Amani Oruwari is a free agent. Mike Hughes is a free agent. There's a couple other. I think there's one other corner on the roster that's a free agent also. So you can spend that money elsewhere, bringing Joey Porter. Then you got Michael Mayer to the Chargers. I almost said San Diego. To the LA Chargers. Short of getting a wide receiver like Jordan Addison or Quentin Johnston, I think getting a weapon, but getting a tight end that can block, be a 3-down tight end, every situation tight end that you never really know. You're never really giving away perhaps what you're doing on the offense by having him out there. You can move him around. It's a great weapon to have. Getting on here to the New England Patriots, Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia. You got a couple offensive linemen. Isaiah Wynn is one of them. Marcus Cannon's another. That's a free agent. Trent Brown is there, I guess. But you need a replacement for Isaiah Wynn. I wouldn't necessarily think that you're going to be paying him. Then we got Washington, Cam Smith, corner, South Carolina. He can play really within any system, and this is a real need for this Washington team. St. Juste is actually not playing that terribly, but you need at least 3 or 4 quality corners on a roster now in the NFL, especially with how high-powered that Eagles offense is, with how high-powered that Cowboys offense can be, and projecting as Brian Daboll keeps morphing and bringing in more players that suit his scheme. You got to assume that Giants offense is also going to start to accelerate, so you got to keep up on the defensive side of the ball. Houston, Isaiah Foskey. I would have taken Cam Smith, but it's not there, so Isaiah Foskey it is. Jared Verse going to Seattle. This guy's going to get in the mix there with Boya Mafe and Uchenna Nwosu. It's a good little pairing there with Jalen Carter as well. Really improving that front seven. It's going to be a nightmare for some of these offensive lines in that division. Osiris Torrance to to Tennessee. I mean, they used to be Houston. They used to be Houston in my defense. But to Tennessee. And this is a great big mauler offensive lineman, because your whole offense runs through Derrick Henry, so you got to do it. Brian Branch to the Jets. This is one of those late first round picks that seems to be a lock at this point, which is not normal. There's usually a couple picks early on where you're like, this is definitely a lock, but you never really get them this late. And this one is, I feel like this is a lot like Linderbaum to the Baltimore Ravens, except they took him in the 20s instead of with their first pick they used on Kyle Hamilton. But this is as close to that as I can really remember at this point. And then my Giants, I give them Trenton Simpson, linebacker, Clemson. I think that the drop-off at linebacker by the time they come around to their next pick, I think that this is a good choice for that. A good choice for them. Micah McFadden is there. Darian Beavers, he drafted last year, but he tore his ACL, I think it was, or was it an Achilles? It was an ACL or an Achilles injury for him. So you don't really know if he's going to be able to bounce back from that. Can't really count on it. But you get Trent Simpson in there. He plays 3 downs. Work that sideline to sideline play. And it's really the first strong Mike linebacker that they're going to have in, can't remember the last time in a decade. Miami right now with the 24th pick, but they were tampering. Imagine if they had this pick. Imagine. Here we are with the next set of picks. Denver goes DeJuan Jones, tackle Ohio State. This is your right tackle. It has to be someone on the offensive side of the ball with this first pick. That's why you traded for it. I could even see them maybe even trading down to a team maybe looking to snipe a Bijan Robinson, who you see they're going at 28 to Dallas. And then you got Jackson Smith-Njigba going to Baltimore. He's a great blocker, so, I'll take that with that Ravens offense, and also gets Lamar Jackson another weapon to play around with. Then I got Anton Harrison going to the Bengals. This is the best offensive lineman left, as there was a huge run of them in this draft so far. You got Gervin Dexter going to the Chiefs. Jalen Hyatt finds his way into the first round. It says LSU there. That's my bad. When I made this right before Keyshawn Butte said that he wasn't going to be declaring for the draft, that he was going back, and I forgot to change the school. So Jalen Hyatt goes to Tennessee, folks. So don't yell at me. I'm here explaining it. I know it's still going to pop up in the comment section because people aren't actually listening. They're just kind of going chapter to chapter. But for those of you that have, yes, I know, Jalen Hyatt goes to the University of Tennessee. Oopsies. Antonio Johnson, defensive back to Buffalo. This just makes sense. Plays all defensive back positions. Fantastic fit for the Buffalo Bills. And then I got Eli Ricks finding his way into the first round there with the Eagles. I like it. James Bradbury's a free agent coming up. Maybe they don't bring him back. And even if they do, it's nice to have somebody that's a younger guy in there, especially with Darius Slay and Bradbury both being a little bit older. But I think that with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson having such a great year, they may have to use that money on him instead of using it on Bradbury. They might be able to work out both, but if they had to choose between the two, I think it's better for them to perhaps take Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and then use one of their early draft picks on one of these corners, because this is a good cornerback class. Going out of the second round, we'll try to get through this a little bit faster for you guys here. We got Jalen Duncan, tackle Maryland, to Houston. This is your right tackle of the future. Siaki Ika, the best interior defensive lineman on the board for Pittsburgh. I feel like it just makes sense with that aging position. They're constantly aging guys out there. I took Cedric Tillman for Seattle, and here's my logic behind it. You have DK Metcalf, you have Tyler Lockett, which is great. You have a quarterback who is thriving, perhaps we can say even overachieving in your offense, who you're going to have to for sure franchise tag this year. So you're going to be paying him $32 million, give or take. What happens if you lose Metcalf or Lockett? What happens to that receiver room? How far is the drop-off if something goes wrong? And if something goes wrong, I'm not even talking about a weak injury. What if it's half a season or something? You're going to need somebody who's going to come in and help cushion that drop-off. So why not use this early second-round pick on whoever the best receiver is on the board? I took Tillman. I felt because, his size, it'll sort of work out a little bit better instead of taking Josh Downs, who's probably just going to be an interior slot guy. I like Tillman. I think you can move him around. You can even, depending on which receiver you lose. If you have 3 wide receiver sets with a completely healthy receiving core, why not be happy that you got another guy out there for Geno Smith to help him continue to thrive in this offense? I think it just makes a lot of sense, even though it's not technically viewed as a serious need of Seattle. What is a serious need is LA getting a pass rush outside of Aaron Donald. So Felix Anudike-Uzomah is going to be the pick here. Then I got a run of quarterbacks. The Saints and the Panthers introduced 2 rookie quarterbacks into this division, Anthony Richardson and Tanner McKee. It's a toss-up for me between these 2 guys. Do you take McKee and maybe you get a guy who's a little more pro-ready, or do you take Richardson who's got the tools, who can, has a higher ceiling? It's really... It's tough. It's tough for me. I like the idea of seeing Richardson just throwing absolute cannons to Chris Olave, though. I think that long term is actually the most appealing aspect of it. And Carolina needs to get a quarterback also. So they got to take the best one that's left here with McKee to avoid anyone deciding to take him before their next pick. Then you got Clark Phillips, the third. Going to be a nice nickel corner, nice slot corner for Jacksonville. And then B.J. Ojolari, edge rusher for Arizona. Put him out there with Myjah Sanders. You got Cameron Thomas there as well. It's going to be a good little grouping there for Arizona. Here's the Colts, and they took Will Levis, and now they're going to take Josh Downs. Get him another weapon. Add to that receiver room. Get weapons. Weapons. People to throw the ball to. Other than Pittman and Alec Pierce. Josh Downs will be a good complement to both of those guys. Then we got Atlanta going with Jahmyr Gibbs, running back, Alabama. Pair him up with Tyler Algier. You got a nice little 1-2 punch there. You don't know how much it's going to cost to keep Cordero Patterson. They haven't really been using him all that much at running back from the looks of it this year. Sort of being a drop-off from what was an amazing season last year. One of my favorite picks to make in the second round. I'll keep making it as long as it's an option. Darnell Washington, tight end Georgia to Green Bay. I just love the way that this would potentially look out there, especially with Tunyon as a free agent. Mercedes Lewis is old. This is having that monster out there. Nice little safety blanket in case all else fails with those other receivers. Then the Raiders, Darnell Wright, tackle. This is who you hoped Alex Leatherwood would be. Say it every time, but Raiders going tackle in the second round makes a lot of sense based on their situation. Then we got Cleveland, Nolan Smith, Andre Carter going to Pittsburgh. Some new pass rushers there to pair out with two of the best in the entire NFL, Garrett and Watt, getting them a nice young complement. Cheaper options for sure than the current ones that are there, and you probably won't lose a whole lot of production either. I got the Lions taking Noah Sewell, pair him up with Rodriguez, and then Jacqueline Roy going to the Chargers. Ooh, that squishy interior there. This should help, hopefully, toughen up and beef up that area. Patriots taking Alabama linebacker. What else is new? Henry To'oTo'o. Then Drew Sanders goes right after that to Washington. Pair him up with Jamin Davis. It's a nice little 1-2 punch, I think, for that team. Then Emmanuel Forbes comes in. This is a replacement for Jamel Dean and or Sean Murphy Bunting. So you got Carlton Davis. You get Zion McCullum, who's hopefully come along. Seems to have had some pretty good plays throughout the year so far. You hope that he can be a lot more consistent moving forward. And of course, Emmanuel Forbes can slide right in there as well. Then I got Andrew Voorhees, interior offensive lineman, going to Seattle. I like this pick. Gabe Jackson, probably done. You can save, I think it was like $6 or $7 million by cutting Gabe Jackson. So why not? Why not? Continue to build a nice, young, youthful, strong offensive line. You got great play out of Lucas and Cross so far. Why not throw that with the interior? You got Damian Lewis there as well. You can re-sign Austin Blythe to play center if need be. You can always draft a center in this year's draft as well. I mean, it worked out with 2 rookie tackles. Why wouldn't it work out with adding 2 rookie interior players either? It's one of the best coach teams in football. Then I got Tennessee going Zach Harrison, edge rusher, Ohio State. Boy, this Harold Landry injury hurt them. More ways than one. And then I got the Jets going Blake Freeland, tackle, BYU. This is your answer to Mekhi Becton and George Fant both possibly being gone from your team. And I think a Blake Freeland, Max Mitchell tackle pairing in the next couple of years could prove to be one of the better young combinations. And then we get a run here on corners as they flew off the board early, and they continue to do it now. Witherspoon to the Giants, Garrett Williams to the Dolphins. Both those teams are going to be in need of some cornerback help. The Giants more so than the Dolphins, that's for sure. They need somebody to help out Adoree Jackson when he's actually healthy, so we cannot have Nick McLeod, whoever the hell that is, starting. And wrapping up here with the final 8 picks, John Michael Schmidt, center of Minnesota. This is your center for Justin Fields moving forward. He's the best center in the draft. Got Derek Hall, edge rusher, going to Carolina. This is the guy that's going to hopefully help out Brian Burns. You're hoping Yetur Gross-Matos was this guy. Then we got DJ Turner, cornerback out of Michigan. You're probably going to lose Eli Apple. So you want to sort of replenish that, even though you got Cameron Taylor-Britt, who's playing good ball. You still got Awuzie, whose contract's going to be up soon. You got Mike Hilton, whose contract's going to be up soon. So you want to be able to have guys in there. And injuries are a thing. Injuries are a thing. And the one position you don't want to be left without, there's offensive line and there's the cornerback room. Those are the two worst ones to be depleted at because of injury, and it could happen, so why risk it? Then Mozzie Smith going to Dallas, defensive tackle, help out that rush defense. I gave Rashee Rice to the Chiefs. I don't really like giving them receiver, but it would be nice to have a nice big-bodied receiver out there for Patrick Mahomes to play with. And I think McCole Hardman's contract's up. Juju was only on a 1-year deal. So, you don't want just maybe you don't bring back one of them and then you need to replace one of them. I think Rashee Rice would be a great option. Kind of falling in this draft a bit. And then Cooper Beebe going to Detroit. I think you can cut Big V. Haloti Vada whatever the hell. I think it would be a good idea to get rid of him. Free up some money, and you plug in Cooper Beebe there at right guard. And I got Cedric Van Pran going to the Buffalo Bills. I was sort of sitting on him going back to Georgia, and there's been no announcement as of right now that he is. So they must know something from the pro scouts that have been coming out to those Georgia games, that Van Pran's going to be taken somewhere early to mid day 2. And I think Buffalo would be a good spot for him to go to. Maybe you can slide him to guard for a year while Mitch Morse's contract runs out. There's a lot of money invested in Mitch Morse, so you could use that money elsewhere perhaps. And then I got Blake Corum, running back, going to Philly. No need to pay Miles Sanders, no need to pay Boston Scott or any of those guys. Put Blake Corum back there with Kenneth Gainwell, and you got a great 1-2 punch to work out with Jalen Hurts. That's going to continue to have just a scary offense, a scary running game. And there you have it, 64 picks. Well, 63. Oh, let me know what you guys think about what I did for your team. Think some fan bases are going to be a little antsy about it, maybe. I don't know. You guys tell me in the comment section, and like and subscribe. Like always. Thank you. Peace.